Boise State entered the LA Bowl having thrown 9 interceptions on the season, but Washington found ways to bring in 5 more interceptions, dominating the turnover margin. Here, Washington lines up in a double mug, threatening to rush one player through each of the 6 gaps. Boise blocks up with a slide to the right, fans to the left, and brings the running back up the middle to the A-gap. The problem is this is actually a 4-man rush with the corner cat and cover 3 behind. In orange, we've shown the mug linebackers dropping back into coverage and the cornerback blitzing off the edge. The stunt eats into the slide, freeing up the cornerback blitz, but Malik Sherrod does pick it up well. However, in all the chaos, Maddox completely misses the curl hook defender and throws the ball right at him. Boise State's starting left tackle, Cage Casey, had 2,730 career snaps. Unfortunately, he opted out of the bowl game for the draft, so his backup with only 221 career snaps had to deal with Washington's pass rush. Now this post right here actually does get open, but before that, the backup tackle loses the 1-on-1 with Jacob Lane. This forces the rollout, and Ontario Thompson takes away the rollout, and Isaiah Ward comes in for the knockout. All of this together forces a desperate throw for Maddox across his body, and it sails for an interception. Zach Durfee has the best pass rush win rate on the team, so Boise has to fan out in case he blitzes. However, he drops into coverage. The tackle blocks nobody, Washington gets a man on the guard and a man on the center, and this leaves an open A-gap for the blitz. Let's rewind to the second quarter. Boise runs a naked boot with a route in the flat. 41 Deshaun Lynch chases the quarterback. The ball is thrown over him, though it is ultimately dropped. Back to the fourth quarter, Boise run a similar naked boot. Lynch wins his block, but stops rushing and gets his eyes up to intercept the pass to the flat. Excellent awareness. As we go into interception 5, it's worth noting that only one interception involved more than a 4-man rush. Washington got pressure and forced errors through scheme and dominant performance. Here, Washington is once again threatening to blitz into both edges. However, both do bail into coverage, and this sorts out the cover 3 again. Boise ends up with 2v1s outside and 1v1s up the A-gap. Ontario Thompson wins his matchup, and Boise desperately dumps the ball to Washington for an interception, number 5 on the day. Beyond the pass rush, Washington held Boise State to a season-low 2.1 yards per rush, almost a yard less than Notre Dame held Boise to. That made Boise one-dimensional and forced them into pass rushing situations like we just reviewed. In the pregame review, the wide receiver run was the top trick to look out for. Washington must have thought so too, because nobody was fooled. Let's take a look at this. Everybody is playing the run. Now 6 yards is a good run, but this is a play Boise State was hoping could break for much more yards and even a touchdown. So holding to 6 yards on a shot play like this is a big win. In this clip, Deshaun Lynch is out leveraged by a whole gap, but he still fights through the block and he makes the tackle in the hole. Here, Alenius Davis makes a great play standing his ground, essentially eating both A-gaps, then shedding his block at the last second to make the tackle. Washington was dominant on defense in this game, but Boise State's defense was a lot more interesting to watch than the 30 points on the scoreboard suggested. Boise State recorded 5 sacks in Washington, the same amount they had over their 5 previous games combined. On drives with a sack, Washington only scored 3 total points. Whereas Washington was able to get sacks and pressures through scheme and domination at the line, Boise largely relied on blitzes, living on the edge and trusting they could get home to the quarterback more than they got burnt. Boise State is in cover 1 with what looks like a robber over the middle. They rush up both B and C gaps, pulling the center into a slide once the linebacker shows he's in coverage. Let's take a look at that. He commits, and the moment he commits, the Mike blitzes, freezing Williams in place for a team sack. Here we get the same idea, but now Boise is overloading to the field in the A, B, and C gaps. Now watch the Mike and the left guard. Sliding, he looks away, and then he commits for the sack. Broncos bring 5 this time slanting to the offense's left, with the left 3 tech pulling all the way around. They end up pulling around the slide. They get a 2v1. Both win for the sack. Boise brings 6 this time, with 3/2 zone coverage behind them. Washington picks up the nickel blitz late and loses to a stunt, getting pressure up the middle, and the collapsing pocket becomes too much to navigate. We're in garbage time with a backup QB for Washington, but number 13 is locked in on the quarterback. He's not fooled for a moment, and he gets a massive sack. Great awareness and great aggression. Of course, blitzing is a double-edged sword, and Washington made Boise State pay for every sack with a response of their own. Boise rushes 6 out of a double cornerback blitz. Washington barely picks up the blitz, but it's just enough for Williams to sidestep and make a deep shot to the broken coverage for a touchdown. Boise's bringing a 7-man rush, but Williams has just enough time to hit a crossing route for 15 yards. Here's another 7-man rush, but Williams is able to escape, roll out, and find receiver 20 yards downfield on the scramble drill. Here in the red zone, the Broncos are bringing another 7-man rush, but Williams identifies the cover, and he throws a beautiful pass into the corner. 3rd and 13, Boise rushes 5, and they stunt into the A-gap, and they get wide open through the middle. However, Williams is able to roll away from the blitz and scramble for a first down. In summary, Washington's dominant performance against the run forced Boise State to be one-dimensional, and then they schemed their pass rush to take advantage of lack of experience at both tackle positions to force bad throws. Boise State's aggressive defensive game plan had some success, especially early on, but Washington was able to find ways to punish the aggression just as much in return, resulting in a huge 38-10 victory for the Huskies.